Welcome to the Phillip Wylie Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Phillip Wylie.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Phillip Wylie Show. Today I'm excited to be joined by my new friend, Ryan Feder. We were connected on Twitter for a while, but we just never had met in person. And interesting story was I was at my hotel. I was going to have dinner with Jason Haddix and another friend. So we're all going to our rooms to drop off bags and stuff. And so I went to my room, tried to get in the door. It wouldn't unlock. So I called downstairs, asked the folks if they could fix my door lock or whatever. They said, is a yellow light coming on yet? So I said, well, the battery's out. We'll have to send someone up. So after 3 phone calls and going downstairs an hour later, it finally got resolved. And by this time, of course, couldn't expect my friends to wait on me for dinner, but they'd already ate dinner. And so it was like, I was in a very good mood, went to the pizza place within the hotel, sat down to have pizza. And then I fortunately got to meet Ryan. He took a bad night and a bad situation and turned it around into something awesome. So we sat there and talked for about 2 hours or so. And so after talking to him, I thought it'd be great to have him on the show to share his experience and kind of how he got started in offensive security. So welcome to the show, Ryan.
Much. I appreciate you having me on. And I also want to thank you again very much for talking to me for that long. It was truly incredible. Just to say real quickly, the value that I got from that conversation and meeting you, I think Defcon could have easily thrown on another 4 or 5 zeros. I gladly would have made it. Gladly would have made it. Absolutely.
Thanks for the kind words.
No, I sincerely
you took a bad situation. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, you took a bad situation and was definitely one of the highlights of my Defcon, if not the biggest highlight.
Wow. Seriously, that means a lot to me. Thank you. And I would have to say likewise too. It's funny because I don't get shell shocked. Sorry, that's not the right word. I don't get, I'm getting there right now, actually. I don't get, wow, what's the word? Starstruck. I'm sorry, it took me a second. I don't get starstruck. I don't like really take selfies. I've been in the music industry for so long. I know a lot of those famous people. Some I love that I met, some not so much, but this was truly such a rewarding experience because I've looked up to you for the last about 5.5 years. First Defcon, first conference in person. So to me, it was just like the magical ending to already an amazing day. And just to even start that before I like to say my story, what was funny to me was I thought somebody just looked like you, your doppelganger, during the conference. So I walked up to maybe like 2 or 3 different people. Hey, Phillip, I know you don't know me, but I'm the guy who drops the diamonds on Twitter. And of course, that just already sounds crazy because I've already said that to so many people. And the reaction was, who you think I am, which I was appreciative of that because I was expecting one person just to kind of like, drag it out a little bit. So at the pizza place with a friend, I'll tell you that story in a second. And I remember I look over, I saw you, and I remember thinking, like, I just go up and introduce myself. And I'm thinking, the guy's eating dinner, he's a normal person. So what I remember doing was such a coward move of, and as soon as I saw that head turn, I'm like, okay, it's him. I'm not, this is a doppelganger anymore. And it was, I was expecting like a 10-minute quick conversation. I quickly went into a 2-hour. We talked about everything, so it was amazing just for that. And I really appreciate you bringing it up because I did not expect this. I remember when you sent me the Twitter message. Sorry for saying the story, but I was on the 101. I looked down on my phone for a second, which is something I never ever do. And when I saw you send me a private message, I went, carefully and smartly, of course, pulled off to the side of the road. I'm like, am I hallucinating this? This is some kind of like a fever pitch. I came back pretty sick, not COVID, thank God. But I remember just looking down. I'm like, okay, let me wait 2 seconds, respond, and here we are. Absolutely incredible. So I thank you for that.
That's one of my favorite things is to meet my connections from LinkedIn and Twitter in person for the first time. So it's really cool. And it's even more fun when you really have a connection with someone, because some people you meet, and it's interesting how some people like that. They want a selfie or whatever. They want to say they met you and stuff. And that's really all they really want. Maybe they're just really socially awkward, just kind of nervous person, and move on. And sometimes I guess it's like Pokemon, got to catch them all. Everyone you follow, you want to meet, and that's the extent. But then there's some cases like, meet someone like yourself that you really have a good connection with. And those are really the type of encounters I really enjoy.
Absolutely. And it also like the ones that kind of just stay with you. Just like how you said, there was people online that I did meet just real quick, 2 or 3 seconds. Hey, I love what you do. Keep up the great work. And don't get me wrong, it still feels good. But to take the time to speak to somebody, you are who you are. You are who you ever says you are. I mean, I've always dropped a little diamond quality person whenever I do that. I feel like I have a good enough understanding of someone. But then to meet them and solidify it in person, to me, it just makes it a million times better. Especially in this industry where we do a lot of good. Unfortunately, you do have a couple of articles, you do have a couple of things, but that should in no way mar or highlight really the good the community does and how really everyone gives and try to make everyone feel inclusive and accepting as possible. I absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think the good overpowers the bad in our industry. There are some people sometimes, and they just, I don't know, sometimes the bad sticks out more, but I think overall the community as a whole is mostly good people.
Absolutely. Very, very strong. And that's something that that's one of the things that kind of draw me in this community, where I've always enjoyed and loved giving, no matter what capacity I've been in. So let's go a little bit further. My first goal and dream as a child was to be a veterinarian. It was something I recognized that, yes, my love of animals since I was small will be forever. But it was also the fact that I recognize most people treat their animals better than, if not, like their own kids. So when I saw that emotional, even as a child, that emotional pull, that heartstring of, hey, I got to put my animal down, or my dog or cat broke something, and now I'm nervous because I've never been to a vet before, or this is their first operation. So like anything, it was kind of like that moment of, I want to give back and I want to do good. Fortunately, schooling became an issue just because I was so bad at math. I was really great at science. I loved everything about that, but I think I just hit that wall and said, okay, I can't do this. What can I pivot to next? So I got into healthcare. I was personal trainer for a while, nutritionist, dietitian. And I think after a couple of years, it was hard because a lot of people didn't have that same, that self-care at the time. A lot of people were more focused on taking care of their finances, other people, than to say, hey, you know what? I don't have the time for this right now. So then I made the other part, like continual pivot. The longest industry I've been in was music, combination of DJing, audio engineering. So to me, it was that instant gratification of, I'm going to play someone a song, they're going to dance, they're going to have a great time, whether it's at a nightclub or a bar. Then I did weddings, corporate events, everything. So it got to a point too where I enjoyed seeing people smile and having a good time and enjoy themselves. Did I think that was going to be like the end game? No. There's something that I think it was the importance of wanting to do something where I recognize I'm good at technology, I'm good at talking to people. I saw way before that a lot of issues were happening in security where, hold on, I'm jumping again a little bit, sorry. So after DJing, it was supply chain engineer, it was a supply chain logistics and managerial role. And seeing how many problems that we would get through on a daily basis, especially some cyber issues. I mean, this was a long time ago. So brute forcing was a lot more easier. Social engineering really wasn't taking, it was there, but it wasn't fully at the level we see it. And one thing that I picked up as a kid, especially living in my father, was he was a great social engineer. I'm saying that slightly as I can just because we call it something else. But even when I was young, I recognized that what he's doing is not good because I could see someone else's reaction of what he's doing to them. And then it could have been tricking, it could have been lying, pretexting. Again, I'm saying some nice words here, but I said to myself, if I can be in a position to help people, stop them, to allow them to recognize someone else doing that to them and stopping it, preventing it, and then what to do afterwards. To me, that would be much more valuable than just playing someone else's song. So I got very lucky near the end of working with this company. They said to me, hey, we want you to have skills that's going to help us, but more importantly for you down the road. And I went to a boot camp just because I wanted to lightning quick pick up the things that I knew about technology and the plenty of things that I didn't know at the time about cybersecurity. So there really wasn't, there were some things on YouTube, but it wasn't, the John Hammons weren't there. The Namasecs weren't there. And the people, who say we're going to put up all this information, it wasn't there yet. So it was reading a lot of books. There was videos, and you came with some great videos. I remember saying one of the first books I bought was Between You and Kim Crowley. And that kind of just helped me lay out that pen testing, that format. Sorry, originally I wanted to get into digital forensics. I keep on, my mind is so excited, I'm scattered brain. So I remember I was doing it for some time. I was looking at volatility a lot. I was doing a lot of malware analysis, static, dynamic. And I think at one point, like a full day went by where I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't look at my computer. I didn't eat and drink. So it's like, okay, I have to take a step back just because of my limitation. It's something that took me a while to realize. So kind of like perfect timing, mixed with opportunity between reading, between studying, doing out the box, try hack me, reading from people on Twitter, which I have to say, that was the biggest resource for me. It was Twitter and then eventually YouTube, because people were writing things up. It was one of the first times where I can reach out to someone and they could say, hey, this is what I did. This is my methodology. This is my mindset. I'm like, this is pure gold. I mean, I remember I started dropping the gems the most because it was something where it was that appreciative where someone's taking their time to say, hey, I found this new bug, or I found this during research, and I can show you how I did it, and you can do it too. So I kind of took that and just ran with it. So from there, I became a system admin with a MSP in Miami. We did a lot of different businesses in different industries. So we had like the Rail Animal Hospital, we had Nature Farm, which they sold to, I think, like Home Depot and Lowe's, a bunch of other businesses. I can't say their name, unfortunately, which is fair enough. So it was a combination of helping people through, figuring out their problems, doing some critical solving, doing some issues like that. And I remember one of my professors said to me, he goes, I hear you're telling it over there, but I know deep down that you love this pen testing idea, you love, ethical hacking, and you love vulnerability management. I'm a huge risk guy, if that's hard to believe. Right? And from there, they just kind of said, hey, you know what? We have an opening coming up. We can try to get you a role, but come up with some presentations, show us a little bit of work, show us that, you don't have the work experience, but at least show us that you have the understanding and the willingness to learn, and then we can go from there. And I remember just rushing it. I think I wrote like a 3-page on the different types of SQI and XSS and playing with DVWA at the time and a couple other programs. And of course, it's not the same thing as saying, hey, that's cool, you can do that. Now you're going to come into a big infrastructure. But I think like anything, once you understand the system, the rules, the communication, it all becomes second work.
Very cool. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear your path. And one of the things I have to compliment, and I thought you did a great job, is kind of following your passion, what interests you, because and kind of seeing what's out there, that you tried the digital forensics route. Because some people, a lot of people try and get in this industry, first thing they hear of is ethical hacking, pen testing roles, and that's what they think they want to do. And I have an interesting story that I like to share, because one of my former coworkers, when I worked at US Bank, he was on the help desk prior to moving into pen testing, but he was taking courses through SANS. And at first I thought, man, the company sure has good training budget, but come to find out, his family was helping him finance these SANS courses. So he was taking SANS courses in digital forensics. And so he kind of decided, maybe I should take a pen testing course so I could be a better digital forensics analyst.
Oh,
and he took the course, fell in love with pen testing, and changed course. So now he's been pen tester for now probably coming up on 7 or 8 years. And if he hadn't checked out other things, he wouldn't have known his true passion. And so I think it's really good to do like you did, and and check out other things before you go into, and then you kind of find out what you're really passionate about, and you're going in informed and something you truly are going to enjoy doing.
Absolutely. And then even on top of that, the other thing too that really helped me was actually just talking to people. It was really networking and then trying to figure out, what do you do on a daily basis? And I had some very, very great people. The first community that I was involved, I wasn't like involved, but full stuff. I was kind of like in a group for a little bit. Met some amazing people that really held all different types of things. So when I'm talking to them, like, that's incredible. I love that. I love that. So I gotta be honest with you. Coming from a music guy, I met a lot of people. When people were posting pictures of dead mouse, I'm like, listen, give me dead pixel sec and give me dead cow, and that's it. That's just why I was there. It would have been cool, but to me, it was meeting these two. I just took a tangent saying that thing. So that was like the very, very first like activity or really anything. Those are people that took me. I really didn't know much about much. Other than the basic technology. The joke that I make is that I feel like I've been in help desk off and on like all my life, unofficially, just because I did see the need I saw the enjoyment for myself when I helped someone fix their Wi-Fi, when I fix their computer, just things like that. So of course, if I thought, what can I do to advance and really make a career out of this? So it was at that time I was doing system administration work, and I remember talking to, I think his name was InfoSec, InfoSec had a little cat icon. So he really, the guy didn't know me from anything. He kind of just like took me under his wing. He sent me a book in blue teaming, and I think it was Trojans and it was Trojan and something. I just moved like 2 months ago, but if I go through it, I want to take a picture of it because it was one of those things where it really gave me a deep appreciation of the blue team. Because as much as, yes, we want to break things and get into it, there's the other side, because now we have to defend it. And more importantly, when you go to a client, it's easy to say, hey, I broke into your system, or hey, I found that something was unpatched, so I could easily get up. But the long service or the long servitude of saying, hey, you know what, I want to make sure that this is patched properly, that this is fixed, and that it doesn't keep happening again. To me, that felt like more like my speed. And I think it's I think that vulnerability management and penetration testing. Some can probably call it purple teaming. I just love the idea because it's kind of like, for me, the best of both worlds, where I'm taking this idea of, all right, I'm taking this challenge of I can get into your system. That's not the goal every time, but it's part of the fun, yes. And the more serious side is, hey, I found all of these, whether they're vulnerabilities, potential vulnerabilities, whether it's network, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's web application. For me, the biggest thing was physical, the building surroundings. So I think the words or the term defense in depth probably taken like a bit of a beating over the last few years, but that's usually kind of like where I start now. So I actually donated a little bit of time not too long ago. There's been a lot of break-ins in local businesses between the Valley area, Greater Los Angeles. I have no problem with Oaks. So every time I turn on the news, it's like, well, there's a new break-in here, the new break-in there. So I wrote on LinkedIn, I think, when I got back from Defcon, hey, I love this. I literally, not just the tech community, but I love the community where they made me feel very welcome. I feel like I'm at home. I'm originally from the Bronx. I lived in Florida for a good amount of my life. I'm an international mutt where I lived throughout Europe. Different stories for different days. But I said, I lived in Long Beach a long time ago before. I'm glad to be back. And if it's one thing that I'm seeing, there's just so many break-ins. And I'm not saying I'm going to charge anyone. I'm not saying what device I'm going to tell you, you might have to buy a couple of things, but at least you could start protecting yourself. because I know what it's like to start at absolute zero. You open up your own business and you have some contractors, or you think that, okay, I know what I'm doing, or I can bring in people. A lot of the times, unfortunately, it's just not right. So I'm not going to say anything where it is or what it is. But the first thing I noticed that the hinges on the doors are not set up properly. So it's kind of like, hey, if I can get through this, what good is your biometrics? What good is your finger scan? What good is your eyes? If, I'm looking at a point of failure or two and just kind of go from there. But it's not so much, and I say this like, from the bottom of my heart, it's not so much you never want to make someone feel bad, or you never want someone, can't talk, sorry. You don't want to make someone feel inadequate because this is the best they can do at the time. And unfortunately, there's someone who is going to be creative enough, or it's going to be crappy enough that said, well, you did all of that, but now I can get around and circumvent it. So we spent a couple of days and I just said, hey, listen, let's see what happens in a week. I mean, this was just 3-4 days ago, so I haven't heard anything back yet. Hopefully I won't. And if I do, it's like, hey, I'm here to help. Even if I charged you my fee, which I didn't, but if I did or I did not, you're still going to get the same customer service. You're going to get the same attentive care. And if I don't know what I'm doing, I'll always tell people right away, be the first person to say, hey, let me look it up real quickly. Because I sat in a lot of interviews, especially managerial, or just having someone to say, hey, can you sit on the interview and see what this person thinks? And I think the craziness is when people just try to make things up on the go, when that's not the case. And it's kind of like, hey, you know what? I know it's not easy to say you don't know, but the appreciation of, hey, I don't know it in a second, but if you give me a minute, if you give me an hour, I'll come back and I'll give you as much as I can. I can't say which company this is for, but I just got reminded of one of the funniest interviews that I've ever had. So this guy was a DBA, smart guy, he knew his thing, and we're bringing him on potentially as a pen tester and potentially as vulnerability management. So my boss asked him, what's your offensive security language like? And he's like, offensive? You mean curse? You want me to curse right now? And we just started laughing. And we're like, hey, we're really sorry. I know on a technological side, you are really good and you're really great hands-on. This might not be the role, but we're impressed with your resume. So let's get it into the right hands. And that's something that I like doing, where it's, you have that moment of, man, I feel embarrassed, but don't feel bad because, you worked hard up to a certain point. We can put you in the right direction. And I like to think of good people that does happen. And it's like that opportunity meets timing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it was just so funny hearing that. It reminded me of that. So it's kind of like going from there. Working with companies, for me, it was a lot easier in the beginning because at least when I come in, you have to be like water. I love that Bruce Lee quote, because when you come in somewhere, it's not, I've done things before, so I want to change. It's no, I'm going to try and blend in, which is really just like anything. It's the penetration side, coming into a new team, coming into a new industry. It's kind of like, hey, blend in. And of course, this next quote is kind of beaten up as well, but it's living off the land. And it's kind of getting familiar with your environment, just settling into your settings. And I feel like if you want to learn and if you want to keep growing and to talk to people and you have that goodwill nature in you, this is like success is pretty much only the way. Yeah. It's also surrounding yourself with good people. I was very fortunate where I've loved shouting out people. I've always loved giving credit where it's due and saying, hey, if I asked for help, this was the person that took care of me. So why not say thank you online? Why not say thank you in person? And that acknowledgement, for what that does to that person's already big. Then it brings more eyes to them. And I feel like, you know what? You help someone build, you help someone grow, and they're going to do the same for you. And it's like a cyclical evolving. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I think I would still be in the Bronx. Crazy to think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very cool. Really enjoy hearing about your background. So one of the things you brought up, I know a lot of people want to get into the physical side of pen testing. What is some advice you have for that?
Cool. I would say the first thing is go check out Deviant Elysium, because he told me about 80 to 90%. And I would say start very small, because that's really, you want to look at it from like the top down view. I look at it from, can I get it in through this door? Is there a fence? Is there a perimeter? So I like looking at the weakest points of entry possible. And kind of would say this to people, don't do this like without, don't go to a private property. The next time you go somewhere, let's say it's a Walgreens or a Publix or a McDonald's, even before you walk and just kind of look around and think, okay, is there security cameras? Is there a security guard? Is there things in place that is going to protect other people from, let's say, driving through it? Or like boulders, or is there any way I could easily get in? Most of the time, I mean, how I got in was through someone else's kindness. And it's something that I hate. I mean, I should see the militant, I don't know what to say in that word. It's something that I both like and don't like at the same time, because unfortunately, it's like one of those, it's a zero day that will always top. If you can find someone where you're holding something, walking through a door, even if it's not you and you send somebody else like a distraction, I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, when you do act on someone else's kindness, they want to believe what they're doing is they're helping out this person and doing a good thing. And then kind of like from there, you're in. I would say psychology more importantly than almost anything, because you want to understand someone else's behavior. Because there's a lot of times where I've gotten in and someone instantly does not recognize me, they don't like me. So you have 2 options. I mean, if somebody sees you in their line, it's not like I'm going to go run away somewhere because you kind of given up at that point. It's all right, let me go in and diffuse. And for me, it's always been make a joke, get someone laughing, get someone smiling, get someone distracted, thinking about something else. So, I mean, from that side of it, I'll tell you, I can't tell you where I've worked before, but my methodology is as soon as I would get in, you go right to the bathroom, go sit in a stall. I would probably eat like a little fun-sized Snicker, because I didn't know all this the first few times. Someone said to me, hey, by the way, your adrenaline is going to be rushing and you're going to get the shakes, your blood sugar is going to drop. So these little technical things, I mean, yes, it's cool watching Red Team Siege do it, but it's not like, hey, by the way, I was, this is what I needed to do before. So kind of getting in from there, it's a combination of blending in, being friendly, having people kind of telling you where to go without you saying, hey, I'm lost. Hey, by the way, this is my first day here. Can you show me where this is? Or it's like, hey, I need to go here. But you're setting up these little sorry, I'm probably getting so much in that technical side so much. I would say also understand the technology that they're using to protect, either if it's data or if it's certain entry points. I remember when the Flipper came out, a lot of people were ragging on it. And I said, if I have this in my hand, I'm going to treat it like a tool, like I do with any other tool, within reason, within understanding the expectations of it. Did I think I was going to be Mr. Robot? No, of course not. But then I say to myself, this could be a good extension, because one of the add-on modules, it's a Wi-Fi jammer. So I thought to myself, okay, most of these places that their security cameras, they're not using CCTV. It's running right online, public interface most of the time. So go kill that. And then you kind of, sorry, I'm kind of like giving like a little too much detailed information, but it's understanding that, if you want to attack something or if you want to get through something, it's really understanding the purpose of what it is and what it does, the communication. So whether it could be a security camera, some of these places now, they're so intense with it, that heartbeat monitors. So when you open that door, the second that your foot touches the ground, there's sensors around where it picks up. So, I mean, if you're already coming in nervous and your heart's pounding and you're sweating, it's probably going to get triggered, or it's going to get, that alarm is going to get set off. And working with so many different organizations, I think the alerts and the logs are only as good as what you have it set to. So how I talked about getting in, now when we look at defending, if I'm having log fatigue, if I'm getting a lot of things, I can't either act you right away, sometimes I can't understand, or depending on the time, I look at it that way as it's not a failure, but it's a learning point of where to succeed. I would say to people, lock picking is good, be careful. Don't do it without them. Look kind of like I can. Don't do it without someone else's permission. There's all these little tools and little tricks. There's a lot of good underneath the door. I would say the luck starting there. Just understanding like the lock process. It's gonna sound cheesy, but just like what Mr. Robot said it, where it's that physical act of you doing something, like when you feel that click and you hear that pop, it's kind of like real life. You're popping an explode, but you have the satisfaction of click, something opens. Now, I'm obviously only talking about this on an ethical standpoint of somebody saying, "Hey, I'm hiring you to improve my security," not somebody saying, "Hey, I feel very ambitious, so I'm going to do my own security assessment without telling anyone or without somebody knowing, and if I get caught, then well, I'll just say to them, I'm doing it for you." I've always had the ROE, rules of engagement on me. Let's try to have like at least 2 contacts from manager or supervisor. There's been a couple of times where their communication or the logistics just wasn't there. So they didn't know they had somebody testing. Now you see a 6'2" Irishman kind of goofy bouncing around, and it's like 9 o'clock in an office, and you're thinking, wait, no, who is this guy? What are they doing here? And, I listened to podcasts, I read books, and I read so many blogs, and they're like, oh yeah, someone's just going to walk up to you. No, someone is going to run up to you and either try to grab you or depending on where you are, of course. So it's always being able to think quickly on your feet. And it's also just saying, here's my ROE, here's the comps, and you put it in the report. And you make sure, because I've done this before too. I've back on a couple of times. And I remember the first thing my boss asked me is, how did that make you feel? I said, honestly, it made me feel great. Because somebody recognized I was not supposed to be there, came up to me. I mean, they were not aggressive. It's not like they pulled out a gun, or it's not like they just grabbed me. They're like, hey, who are you? Do you have ID? Who is your supervisor? So I think all these little things are important to note, just because without somebody walking up to me, I mean, I could have been a completely bad actor walking into a water treatment facility, XYZ. You know what I mean? So whenever I do the report, those are the people I usually give shout outs to first. And I mean, the tough ones are the ones that are nice and say, hey, I'm going to hold this door for you. And it's like, I hate to write that, but you have to put it down. And of course, understanding how networking works, how computers work. I mean, the physical side is just like a touch to it. And it really depends what the goals they give you too. So if somebody says to me, hey, get to my server room, and I can do all this great Mission Impossible stuff leading up to it. But once I'm in the server room, if I don't know what to do with the computers, if I don't know how to make it communicate back to my P2, or if I'm going to do a hot plug attack or XYZ. Now, honestly, in most engagements, you're not doing that unless they say, hey, here's a dummy computer. We have something in non-prod, because I've fortunately worked with people before who either just a little too excited to ride into a prod machine, throw in that hot USD or get a shell back. That's like, dude, no. Because now you're disrupting businesses. You're doing things that, yes, like on paper you do want to do just for documentation, but you don't want to disrupt the business by any means. It's a very tricky cybersecurity. I've learned over the last several years. It's a very, very niche and interesting field, because we're not really making money. I mean, we're not making money for the business unless we're doing like cybersecurity sales, but we're more so protecting the business from losing money. So I guess if you look at it from a qualitative and quantitative risk standpoint, you are helping with reputation and you're helping safeguarding. Hopefully people take it as seriously as I like to, and you and others in the community, but keeping our data safe, keeping other people's data safe, instead of just willy-nilly, well, if our compliance is out, we can just pay a fine and deal with the damage. I mean, I hate to name drop, or company drop for that matter, but you look at AT&T, you look at a few other companies where they go, well, 80, 90 million people's information would leak. Nothing's going to happen. No one's going to, I don't think that many people would leave AT&T, but I think if they were a smaller company and they had to really rely on grassroots and they had to really rely on community support, I think through that level of negligence, fault or no fault of their own, it's kind of like, well, my information is out now and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm either going to leave this company, like the old saying, hit them where their wallet hurts. But it just doesn't work like that. If I'm going off on a tangent, I apologize, but I can brand it.
Yeah. So, what's your advice for someone that wants to get into pen testing? What kind of education path do you recommend and resources?
For the resources, I would first recommend understanding technology itself, just the communication, just understand what a computer does. From there, reading, tons of reading through whatever medium. Some people are better at visual learners. Some people are better at video or more hands-on demo tutorial. I think now in 2024, we're almost in 25. This has probably been the most content or the most information that's been put out, whether it's through YouTube or through TikTok. And I would say Reddit's a great source, Twitter's a great source, tons of books. As much as I want to tell people, hey, you can do this very quickly, what do they call it in a day, 0 to hero track, I've always believed that if you put in the hard work, and I mean, not just like I spend hours a day, and I get it, so people's schedules are different than others, but I've always said if you could really just harness in, dig down deep, do the work, that's always going to be a great start. Then from there, it's going to be networking, branching, talking to like-minded people, going to conferences, going to the local meetups. Even if you don't know anything, it's still great to show up and say to somebody, hey, I'm learning, or hey, I want to learn. And I think in this, especially in this community where people kind of like myself, where we love showing so much and we love talking and demonstrating, I think you'd be very hard pressed where someone wouldn't say, hey, pull up a chart and I'll show you what I'm doing. So I think through that aspect, then depending on what type of pen testing someone wants to get into, if they want to do network stuff, I mean, I think he was probably one of the very, very first through his active boxing videos. I was watching that a lot. Cyber Mentor was great. You have a bunch of great videos. I love learning about other people's experiences, whether it was their success or their pitfalls, because regardless, those are all learnable moments. So taking in all of that, I mean, there's so many, without trying to name drop, there's just so many people that I've learned from over the years that I think I just started feeling. So I remember laughing at myself one day because I would just find the post that I like or find an article and just start texting myself. I mean, this was before I had an inkling of an idea about using like documentation, like Obsidian or Cherry Tree, which, helped a lot, or bookmarks. So I would just say, all right, I'm going to text myself all this information. As soon as I get back home, then I could throw this into a lab. I think a great starting point would be the DVWA. I think Burp Suite has a great program for location. Also, their network stuff is great. If you have the resources if a company's going to send you, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with taking a boot camp. I think it's just realistically look into the program, vet them a little bit. Because unfortunately, a lot of people now, our companies and programs will just say, hey, we'll charge them at $15,000. We'll give them really basic information, and we're not going to help them with career development or talk them as a person. So if you can find a great program that's either affordable, or if you can sort it or whatever they're offering, that's a great place to start there too, because that's really how my networking started. One of my professors, his name is Drew Point on Twitter. His name is Andrew Reck. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be on Twitter. I definitely would not be having this interview right now. I probably would have made it in Defcon. He said to me, hey, get on Twitter, get on LinkedIn. You're personable. You know how to talk to people. You know how to listen. And I think it would be a disservice if you don't really put yourself out there. And I kind of looked at him like, but it's not about me. It's really, I enjoy learning from people. He's like, yeah, but think about the people you're going to teach one day. And I was like, dude, you just blew my mind, because I didn't think I would get far into it. Or excuse me, I didn't think that I would excel and grow as much as I have now, where I have this much enthusiasm. To me, it's incredible. So, whenever I could help, I do have a lot of people reaching out to me. Of course, I want to give advice and I want to help, but I don't want to make it easy for them, because it kind of takes it away from it a little bit. But I would say know what you would like to pen test and what you'd like to do. Because I think some people have this sexy idea where it's like, oh, I'm going to be like Hugh Jackman and Swordfish, or I'm going to be like Keanu Reeves and Jonathan, and I'm just going to break into systems and do all this crazy stuff. And it's like, really, no, it's really not like that at all. So I think having a realistic expectation paired with an understanding of what it is and what you're going to be doing. I made the joke before that I don't think I was going to spend this much time in Word and Excel, but I would say more than a Cali terminal or my Arch terminal when I was doing pen testing, especially for City, it was, no, most of the time was through Word and Excel. So I think it's that understanding of, okay, this is what I'm actually doing versus what I'm doing. What does that mean? I mean, there's like two memes like that I'm drawing a blank on now, but it's almost like true representation too. But there's a lot of new things coming up. I've seen now there's car hacking, which I found very, very fascinating because, I mean, my car was stolen a couple of years ago. So do something very similar, very, very similar. They caught the replay, and even with the push to start, it doesn't matter. They can just open that up. I mean, they found my car later that day, but, you know, it was missing the important parts. But regardless, it was taken care of. But I think there was a part of me that I didn't even get mad. I was like, wow, that is impressive. So, you know, seeing that evolve to where it is, I mean, there's a ton of great different things to radio frequency. I mean, I could keep going on and on, to be honest.
Well, we're getting down towards the end of the episode. Is there anything you'd like to share before we close it up?
Yes, I want to thank you very, very much for taking the time to speak to me at Defcon the first time and taking the time to speak to me now, allowing me onto your platform. This is beyond the dream come true. I think if I would wanted to thank, I'll just do this one, anyone that's following me on Twitter, Nolan X8. Real quick, I'm not anonymous. I've never been anonymous. I think I did that without thinking because it really was supposed to be a no one. That's just like the moniker that I like because I'm a very behind the scenes guy where I would give all the credit. I'll do the work and give someone else the credit. And as long as things work out. So definitely not anonymous. I mean, I knew some hackers in Miami, New York, but shout out to so many people on Twitter just because I've learned through so much. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. And I would not be as enthusiastic and as happy as I am in this industry because of people like you and plenty of others. And very cheesily, I have to shout out my mom. I love her to death. She was my number song in my whole entire life. If it wasn't for her, I also wouldn't be here. Like, I'm a very obvious level because of her, but in just so many ways. So I would say too, if you haven't talked to your mom in a while, I would say pick up the phone, tell her you love her. And I think that'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Well, thanks again. I appreciate you taking time to be on the show, and it was really great meeting you during DEFCON. And I look forward to the next time we get to see each other in person.
I'm very much looking forward to that too. Definitely.
Thanks everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Phillip Wylie Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Phillip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Phillip Wylie. Until next time.